Hello and welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. And today, me and Benji are just going to be running through the England Test squad that released for the tour of Pakistan in, is it November?
December?
Whenever.
World
After the
Test
World
Championship.
Cup. Yeah. So it's quite an exciting squad. I'm just going to go out and say it. This is the first time I've looked at a Test squad and been like, "Ooh, I'm quite excited to see these new players."
Mm-hmm.
I just haven't been that. I've enjoyed the Test summer. I don't think there's a single English fan that hasn't. But yeah, to see some new players coming in will be interesting. So obviously, it's our first away Test series in Pakistan since I think it's like 2004 or 2005.
It's a long time.
Yeah, and Jimmy Anderson was actually on that tour. He was so I mean that says a lot. But he didn't even play, so he hasn't even bowled the ball in Pakistan in an actual match. So yeah, it's obviously new territory. We've seen some Test matches in Pakistan. We kind of know what it's going to be like. It could be absolute roads and very batter friendly, which would be nice just to see, England players get runs, but we'll probably still find a way to collapse. But yeah, Benj, can you just run through the Test squad and we'll just have a chat about interesting players in there?
Okay, you're going to just get 15 names. I'm sorry.
That's all I want.
That's what's
That's
going to
all I want in
happen.
life.
So, captain Ben Stokes. He's obviously in the squad. That makes sense. We've got a few notable absences from the side that played over the summer. Then being Alex Lees, Matt Potts, Johnny Bairstow, Stuart Broad. We'll talk about all that.
You know what? Should we actually address that now?
Well, let's talk about that now. Let's talk about notable absences, and then we'll go through the actual squad itself. So the first one at the top of the order, he's lost his job. Was never really exciting. I didn't hate him at the top of the order, but Alex Lees is gone. He's out. And for openers, Keaton Jennings looks like the prime candidate for a call-up to open up with Zach Crawley. What do you think about that decision, James?
I think it's a fair decision. I think we almost have to talk about, we'll talk about Lees in isolation first, and then potentially Lees and Crawley together, because Lees, he tried to play this sort of ultra attacking form of cricket, which obviously was kind of the rest of the team were trying to do as well, being very positive. But that wasn't how Lees actually got his place into the England squad. Like, he became really good when he moved to Durham and was going at a strike rate of about 30 or 40. So it did seem a bit unnatural to him, and he was playing a lot of shots where he wasn't moving his feet. And that meant that he was nicking off all the time, which was sad to see. Sometimes he looked brilliant, and I was very excited by him. I think it's in equal measure a bit rough for him that he got dropped, but also very, very understandable and incredibly justifiable. But him being dropped, but Zach Crawley not being dropped, that's got to feel pretty rough, because even though Alex Lees had averaged like 24 or something, like, really bad, I'm pretty sure Zach Crawley was worse. So
yeah,
that's got to suck. That's got to suck.
I think so too. But I reckon that Crawley has just done enough to keep him in there. Like, every time we're like, oh, he's down and out, he gets a 50, and he does something that just keeps him in there. I know you're not a Crawley fan and you want to see him gone.
I don't mind him. I don't mind him. And also, I think the ceiling for Crawley is high. That's what they're coming in with. But how long, if he continues to do not very well, how long are England going to persist with him before, like, it just mentally breaks the guy?
Yeah, I reckon potentially I reckon this is make or break for Zach Crawley. I think this would be his last chance to really cement himself as that. I think the logic behind his selection is probably because he's a good player of spin, and we'll come on to the other batters that have been selected too, namely like Ben Duckett and Harry Brook when we come on to that.
Yeah.
But I think Crawley, because it's going to be spin friendly out there in Pakistan, that's probably the logic behind his selection.
Just the two people that we mentioned that were also omitted. Was it three? I can't remember. But Bairstow obviously out injured. Pictures on Instagram look horrible. Get well soon. Looks awful. And then Stuart Broad, I believe, is on paternity leave.
Yes, he's having a
So
child.
that's pretty standard. I don't think there was anybody else on those notable absentees there.
I think in terms of batsmen, no. We'll have a look at that in a second.
Matthew Potts was the other one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Matthew Potts is a bowler, but I think we can talk about that a bit more when we come on to the bowlers.
Yeah.
So if we go through the rest of that list of batters, we've got Ben Stokes as the captain, all-rounder. Zach Crawley, Keaton Jennings, Ollie Pope, Joe Root. You'd expect that the top order will look something like that. Mm-hmm. Then in terms of your middle order batters, you've got Harry Brook, Ben Duckett, Liam Livingston and Will Jacks, which is really exciting. We're expecting Ben Folkes to keep the gloves. Obviously he will, and we'll probably bat at number 7. And then we come into the bowlers, which we'll talk about in a second. I know you're excited about it. I am too. There are 2 names in there that I'm really excited to speak about. That's Ben Duckett and Liam Livingston. Now, I think the selection of Liam Livingston happened after Moeen Ali decided to reverse his decision to come out of retirement for Test cricket. So Livingston was then that selection as that spin bowling all-rounder. And Ben Duckett, as a Notts boy born and bred, I love that selection. I think he's got such great potential in the red ball game. He's had a great year. And as I mentioned previously, he plays spin fantastically well. But I know you want to talk about Livingston, James. Are you excited for him?
I am, yeah. So, I mean, just on your point with Ben Duckett, he is an incredible player of spin. I think that's also why they picked Keaton Jennings. He did really well in his debut. I think he went on tour in India and stuff. He was really good. So that kind of makes sense. And he's been in stellar form in the county championship, much like Duckett. Livingston hasn't played a red ball game in a long time, but he's a fun pick because if he can be consistent with his line and length, then he can turn the ball both ways. He can do off spin and leg spin. And on those really road-like pitches that you might get in Pakistan, it's kind of what you need just to churn out some overs, potentially be that point of difference. But the person I think will play ahead of Livingston in that kind of number 8 role probably is Will Jacks, because he's bowled a lot for Surrey this year. He's been very good for them in red ball, and he's been very exciting just as a general batter as well. And for me, he is just that number 1 pick for the spinner spot. I think it's a bit harsh that Liam Dawson wasn't even considered because he is a very good spinner and he bats and he's done very well for Hampshire, I think he plays for. But I can understand them not wanting 2 left-arm spinners, maybe. That could be the reason. But yeah, I think Will Jacks will probably play over Livingston. But either way, it's exciting to see them both. And I just the thought of Livingston in whites is something that's pleasing to me, because I imagine if he just hits 120-meter sixes in the games, it could be very fun. But that being said, Pakistan hasn't actually always suited spinners. I don't know what the conditions will be like, but I don't think spinners have that low an average in Pakistan. It's mostly a seamer country. So that being said, should we move on to those seamers? Because of them, we've got Jamie Overton, Ollie Robinson, James Anderson, Mark Wood, and then the other spinner, Jack Leach, who will play because he's England's best spinner. What's your opinions on this pace attack?
I was really puzzled by it. I was expecting more to see Ollie Stone, Mark Wood in there. I was probably the one. Well, Robinson, Anderson, and Wood. That doesn't surprise me at all. I think they're, along with Stuart Broad, they're England's 4 best seam bowlers. No complaints about that. I think they're our best pace, especially overseas. At home, I'd always have Chris Woakes in there, but we'll come on to that. Jamie Overton, It puzzles me so much. I think the reason for his pick is he has had an incredible year in the first class game, like way outperforming his brother Craig. I think Jamie's just played fantastically over the course of this. And when he was called in his, didn't he come in for like one
Yeah,
test match and
got one test match and he
and
got
seemed quite
97.
impressive? Yeah.
He
So
got
he impressed
97
with
with
the
the bat,
bat.
so he offers that. But also, he's got wheels that his brother
Mm.
doesn't have. Like Craig is, I mean, they're both like 6'5" or something, which might be a point of difference on some hard Pakistani tracks. But also, he is pretty quick, Jamie Overton. He's just his lengths were all wrong in the one test
Mm.
match that I've seen him play. But yeah, no, I do agree. It was. I mean, I understood it just because I think it was fast, and I think it's going to be tough for the bowlers this series. Um, for me, I'm going to list off what my first choice 11 would be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say Zach Crawley, Keaton Jennings, Ollie Pope, Joe Root, Harry Brook, Ben Stokes, Ben Folkes, Will Jacks, Ollie Robinson, Jack Leach, and Mark Wood. So I'm actually leaving out Jimmy Anderson.
Wow.
I'm not playing Duckett, and I'm not playing Livingston or Overton. So that, and to be honest, I think I can see cover in all of those situations. So I think Robinson, I'm picking him just because he's taller. Basically, I think he's very skilled, just like Jimmy. But Jimmy and Ollie, pretty interchangeable. Jamie Overton for me is cover for Mark Wood, and I think he will play some games because he is that pace. But
Yep.
I don't know if Wood is fit yet enough to play continuous games. Livingston I see as cover for Jacks, and Duckett I see as cover for Folkes, Brook, and maybe Crawley if Crawley does a horrible job and Duckett will open. That's kind of what I see. What's your thinking?
Not too dissimilar actually. I think I'm gonna open up with Zach Crawley and Keaton Jennings. Bit of a stat: Keaton Jennings was the highest run scorer in Division One of the County Championship this year.
Good stat.
I think Pope's done enough to cement his place at 3. I'm going to be very heavily Surrey with this lineup. Joe Root number 4. There's no other place for him. And then over Duckett, I'm picking Brook. Just because I think he's got that potential. I think it's his time to shine in wake of Bairstow being injured. I would fully expect Bairstow to come back into that number 5 slot as soon as he's fit. Stokes 6, Folkes 7. There's not really much you can change with that. And I'm actually going to go with Liam Livingston. I'd like to see him make his debut in that bowling all-rounder spot. Okay. As you say, it will likely be Will Jacks because of his performance for Surrey, but I'd like to see Livingston. And then for, where am I, number 8? So 9, 10,
number 9
11.
now.
Yeah, 9, 10, 11. So for my bowlers, I'm going to go for Anderson and Wood. It'll be Wood, Leach, Anderson, or Wood, Anderson, Leach. That'll be my thing. I think Leach has to play being that left arm spinner. The reason why I'm going for Livingston over Jacks, for me, is because right-handed over left-handed. With Jacks and Leach, you have 2 left arm spinners.
No, Jacks is a right arm off break bowler.
Was he an off break bowler?
Well, he is, yeah.
I got confused when you spoke about Liam Dawson earlier. Were you talking about how Leach and Dawson are both that?
Yeah.
There we go. I was confused, but that explains it. But again, I think Livingston just adds that little bit of extra because he can turn it both ways. And I think we've seen him. It's not like he's not bowled at all this year. He's bowled a different role, but he's been a wicket taker all the way through the year. So that's my selection for that. James Anderson, I just think he has to start. At least the first test, like he's England's best bowler ever that we've ever created. And then Mark Wood, at the minute, is our fastest bowler. He's our point of difference. I think Mark Wood's going to be key to England's success. That's the Benji and James 11s. Do you want to talk about a couple of the other bowlers who missed out then? Because I know we talked about the batters who missed out, but not so much the bowlers. So the 3 names, aside from Matt Potts, that come to mind, Sam Curran, Ollie Stone, and Chris Wokes. None of those 3 have got into that spot. Why do you think that is? Do you think they're concentrating Curran more on the white ball game?
Yeah, quite possibly. I think Curran hasn't quite grown into his Red Bull self yet, potentially. I think he's definitely getting there, and he's becoming slowly this like close to a genuine all rounder for he's Surrey as well, isn't
he? Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like he's been doing well. I think he got his first class ton this season, which is lovely to see. But I think just bowling wise, he hasn't quite been there. And then who else was it that you mentioned?
Folkestone, Folkestone. So
Wokes
Stone
and
for his
Stone.
pace.
Yeah, Stone, I think, would have been a perfectly justifiable pick. I think he's been coming off quite a few injuries, so potentially that's the reason why. Just want to wrap him in cotton wool. And then, yeah, I think Wokes just, I think Wokes has ruined his reputation away from England, hasn't he? That's all that's happened in the winter. So poor bloke, I don't think he's going to get much of a gig outside of the UK anymore.
Well,
But
in Red Bull, he will in White Ball.
oh yeah, obviously, but yeah, in Red Bull, I think. But yeah, that's our thoughts on the Test match picks. Let us know what you think down below. Um, Also, let us know what you think the Pakistan 11 is going to be and whether you think they're going to beat us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for all the support. We will see you guys later. Goodbye.